going back to Ilm al-Kalam, would you not say that speculative theology is scripturally impermissible? Is it allowed to speculate?
I would say it's allowed provided we respect the ayah. We go to the muhkam and we take the Quran as Imam. Unfortunately, historically, that was not taken. People started not from the Quran as Imam.
So the ayat
that's the problem. And from the messenger for example, nobody ever benefited for. I gave the example of the divine knowledge. First, the Quran is clear that when you talk about yes, they say بكل شيء عليم. What is shay? Which can the shay, which can exist, but the impossibility that something that does not exist is not subject to knowledge. So the future event, which has not been decided yet, do not exist. And they don't decide. You don't know if they will be decided in the future. Someone say, how can this be? Okay, read the Quran. If they have read the Quran,
I was going to say this, it's very clear. Subhanallah.
If you read the Quran, if you don't read it, you will go wavering ad infinitum, and then in Jabr and all. And even the Quran said clearly, attributing that you will be tested, so Allah will know who the true believer and who the munafiqeen and the weak and faith.
Ustad, is this ayah not the most muhkam of the muhkamat? It's very clear.
It should be most muhkam, but say this is Zawahir Quran, we should interpret because Allah knows the future. They make an assumption Allah knows the future. Question, is the future knowable? Is it a shay?
It's not.
It isn't. That's the point. They don't go deeper. But if they started, they would see what's about the ayah.
They made Allah out of time.
Give me an example. You will laugh at this example. The ayah وآخرون in Surah At-Tawbah آخرون مرجون لأمر الله إما يتوب عليهم ما يعذبهم الله, and other postpone to the decision of Allah. Exactly. Either He punish them or forgive them. This dictates that the decision has not been made yet. It's just postponed.
Exactly.
This means, number one, Allah is capable of postponing His decision. It's number one. Part of the divine power. And based on that decision, but the decision will be based on some reason, we don't know. That does not mention, but obviously He will forgive those that, not arbitrary, we know that. He will forgive those who repent, and those who insist on misguidance and so on, they will not be forgiven and they will be misguided. That's, we conclude there. But independently, He can postpone. All Mufassirin, when they come to the ayah, except the Qurtubi, they say, these are the three who are, these are three who have been postponed. خُلِّفُوا. It is this and this. And they mention the story of some of them where ordered the people not to talk them and they desert them and so on. And they were tested heavily until their tawbah came. Okay? Nobody even pondered about the meaning except Qurtubi. What Qurtubi said, this ayah means it is not known yet that في ظاهرها, as it appears. But that's only for our knowledge. It's not for Allah. How can it be for Allah said, postpone لأمر, they postpone for Allah's decision. It does not postpone for your knowledge or for your, so that you can perceive. So it's clearly, if the postponement and the forgiveness and so on is already decided the moment the ayah was revealed, then this is clearly a lie.
Didn't Ibn Hazm and Ibn Taymiyyah notice this? Did they not point?
I don't think they noticed that. As far as I know, nobody noticed that.
I think when the Shia attributed
Hisham al-Hakam commented that if we say that Allah knows the future events as they will happen, they are really somehow exist in His knowledge, then He cannot make any other choice. So He's not.
Allah has no qudra.
He's acting by necessity. He's a dead, blind, deaf nature. Yes. Ar-Razi faced that point. Sa'ad said that, and there was his comment of the Ar-Razi. Ar-Razi faced really a very catastrophic situation. What he said? He said that, and I said, أما نحن فنقول بما قاله جمهور العلماء. But we say what the majority of scholars said. What is this? Here is a structural argument which is compelling. There's no escape from it without falling into blatant contradiction.
Maybe Razi wanted to say it, but maybe he couldn't say it.
But he did not dare, because if he did, he would have crucified him at the time. Everyone, because he's supposed to be Ash'ari, and the whole world was at the time Ash'ari or Hanbali. And they think the future events are somehow knowable. And they argue the knowledge does not force. Like when you see a blind man going toward an abyss, then you conclude he will fall in the abyss. But the problem with that is that you are not comprehensive controlling the universe. You are not the one initiated the life of this blind man, but the one who is comprehensively in control of the universe.
That means I'm theorizing when the Shia,
he knows only that he will fall in the abyss, but only if he has made the decision, I will let him fall in the abyss.
Yes.
Now, only if he did not, like it wouldn't. But another example, which also has two, is a double-edged sword against Al-Jabariya and against the people of the book in the following ayah. Allah tells Musa and Harun later, obviously, the first meeting was Musa while he was on the way to Egypt, and then he asked Allah to appoint Harun as a prophet supporting him. Allah said, "Yes, I appoint him, and they will reveal him to come and meet you." And they met most like near Aqaba, Eilat. Okay. After they met, Allah talked to Musa, and Harun was most likely listening. I don't know. Possibly he was also addressed by talk. But anyway, the address is to Musa, and Harun is listening as a wazir, as a supporter. And he said, اذهب إلى فرعون وطغى إلى etc. Go to Pharaoh, he's a aggressive tyrant, etc. فقول له قولا لينا لعله يذكر أو يخشى. Talk to him gently to start with. Obviously, later they became harsh, but anyway. قولا لينا لعله يذكر أو يخشى. Maybe he will remember and start studying. The dhikra meaning studying and remembering, and or fear Allah. Meaning, Allah gave Musa and Harun the impression, I'm sending you to you and ordering you to be gentle to him, because there is a possibility لعله يذكر أو يخشى, which fits with the theory of free will perfectly, and with the other eyes of the Quran, which are قطعي. Jamil?
Yes.
This refutes fatalism. So that was not known that he will reject faith and become tyrant. Was not known at that moment. There was still maybe, hopefully he will be.
But there is a chance that he might change.
There's a chance. So it's
if
not
there is a
decided
chance.
It doesn't decided yet, and it's unknowable until the decision is made.
That means the future is open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ayah is a sword against the fatalist in the Islamic camp, but also against the people of the book. Because what's in the people book they're saying in Hada? Most likely the scholar, they face the same problem, but they solve it by fabricating, putting in Allah's mouth the following.
MashaAllah.
He said to Musa and Harun, go to, when I say put in Allah's mouth, we know Allah has no mouth, but this is a figure of speech, yeah?
Inshallah.
Allah is saying, you know what I mean. Everyone knows. But we use it liberally without any problem. He said them, according to the Old Testament, go to Pharaoh. Yeah? You are with me?
Yes, go to Pharaoh.
Something fell?
Yes, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I left it.
Go to Pharaoh. I will make his heart very hard so that he will reject. So he sent them, I'm sending you to destroy him. I have decided to destroy him. Which is either the Quran is lying or they are lying. Now make your choice.
Exactly. Hold on, Mustafa. Give me 1 second. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
So these people, they fabricated.
This is clear
completely.
Clear fabrication. And the Quran, the information of the Quran is clearly Islam in their face. If you read something else in their book, then they are lying against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Possibly they have something originally like that what the Quran said, almost certainly. But they saw that means the future is open. They don't like a future to be open. They want to be Jabri somehow. Or they came in the same, trap themselves the same, like many mutakallimin trap themselves.
It suits them. It suits them to be Jabari, because if the future is closed, then their evil is justified. Their dominion is justified.
But how come that clear image, which I think the Sahaba had at the time of Rasulullah, has been messed up and mutilated? I think because the one who usurped or Muawiyah and his cohort said it couldn't have happened without Allah permitting it to happen, and he knew that that by the foundation of the world. It's Qadr, inevitable, nobody can avoid it. and he confused Qada and Qadr and so on. And from that, Jabr started, and then the whole confusion started with it. Obviously, there was a confusion about Muslim and Kafir, that's Khawarij, who is Kafir, who is not Kafir, that's called the names, the issue of the names, which is a very deep and complex issue. We know that. But the issue of Qadr, I think at the time of Sahaba, should be clear, because Umar is that we have it with good isnad. I have it in my papers with excellent isnad. He used to supplicate, Allahumma, if you have written me or have decided me to be from Shaqi, then erase me and write me as a happy. And if you have written me as a happy, then affirm that writing and don't change it. And then he reads the ayah in Surah Al-Ra'd, يمحو الله ما يشاء ويثبت وعنده الكتاب.
He understood.
But there are narrations from Umar which look like Jabr. If you check them, you'll find them with broken isnad, with some liar on the way, and so on, unfortunately.
I was going to say something to you before I forget. I was going to ask you a question, but then I answered it already in my head. I was going to say to you, Ustad, why are there not early hadiths that talk about what you and I are speaking about? But then I realized when Ja'far al-Sadiq, or when the Shia was saying that Ja'far al-Sadiq was saying Bada', what they were referring to is this actually. Bada', meaning the divine decision is not made definitively sometimes.
Exactly.
And the example they give is more.
But they usually report it in such a way that as if something happened which surprised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, that we have to add to that, all possibilities are still open, and he knows about the possibilities.
He knows.
It doesn't happen that something would surprise him. It will not.
He knows. Let's say this. I always say this when I'm explaining this to someone new because they get shocked. He knows every single intricate possibility or contingency. But
at least for the immediate future. We don't need to go at infinity, but at least for that. And when the situation comes, he knows which options are available, so he's not surprised. Like so when for example, the Ismaili claim Bada lillahi fi Ismail, or the other Ithna Ashri claim Bada lillahi fi Ismail, because originally Ismail, the eldest son of Ja'far Sadiq, he's supposed to be, according to their theory, to be the appointed Imam, but he turned out to be Fasq and he drink al-khamr. That's the claim. I don't know if it's historically valid or not valid, Allahu A'lam.
Nabi, they say
Nabi.
Nabi.
They claim Ja'far Sadiq Bada lillahi fihi amr lam kana khafiyan min qabl. Even if it is true that Ja'far said something like that, I don't think it's said, but even if it's true,
he didn't.
Then he meant something transpired, which then resulted that Allah removed him from Imama and appointed, or from being a follower of me, because at that time there was no Imama in that sense yet developed. It was just the leader of the opposition party, which was underground. That's it.
It's like the head of
this is unfit to be a leader of the opposition party. So the next one was then the right one. This one excluded. Well, the Israelis said, no, it cannot be changed and things like that.
Yeah.
But if that's valid, as most likely he meant it in the more innocent meaning. But the meaning that something come and be, and some people have in their mind or the connotation that Allah gets surprised. No, surprise will not be there. The possibilities are there, like when he said to Musa and Harun, لَعَلَّهُ يَذَّكَّرَ وَيَخْشَى. He may do, but he may do otherwise. And we deal with the situation when it develops as it should be.
They cite another example, Ustad, in relation to Nabi Musa in the Quran. Allah says, and we appointed 30 days, then we extended it to 40. So there was there's a difference in the decision. The decision got changed.
This maybe is that we appointed him for 30 days because that was, and then for certain reason Allah extended more. And there's a hadith is that Musa was fasting and so on. I don't know how authentic is the hadith and how reliable is it, but seems to be reasonable. And after end, Musa noticed that he has bad breath. If you fast 30 days, you will get bad breath. So he brushed his teeth, thinking that the bad breath will be offensive to Allah Ta'ala when he meets him. He thinks in human materialistic terms. And I say, why did you brush? I'm not human, so will be offended. That what you regard as offensive breath is for me good in general sense, because it expressed your obedience and fasting for me.
No.
Then it has a good smell in the Allah does not have a nose or smell. We know that, but in that sense. So he ordered 10 days and not brush. That's the story. Whatever it is, but this is because of an injunction. A more interesting story in the Old Testament. Obviously, we don't have the story in a reference. Is that one of the king of Bani Israel was relatively reasonable and had some reforms and so on. I don't remember. And I think the prophet at his time, I think it's at Hezekiah also, was given an order, go to tell the king that you should try to complete your reforms in 5 years because this is the limitation I'm giving to you. And the man was very in a state of shock. 5 years is not enough. So he went to the Holy of all holies and opened the Torah on the top of the Ark of the Covenant and supplicated, my Lord, 5 years is not enough. I need more time until I finish this and finish it. And then Allah revealed to the Prophet, say, okay, I hit his supplication. I changed that. I will give him extra 10 years. So he has 15, but don't come back again, ask anymore. 15. So he can't even change that. But this is because he made it as a gift, and then he extended the gift more. He could not have Allah because he said, I give him 5 years. No way he will die before that, because Allah will not step back from any bestowance or gift. But if he asks for more, we can give more. But don't come again, house. That's it. Do your job in 15 years. Independent of the story, authentic or not, it shows again the future is, as we said, is open. That's one main source of problems which have in Islamic history. The other source is the issue of Khawarij and the Fisq and Mu'min and Kafir, who is out of the Islam and so on. Is complex, but it can be settled Quran Sunnah quite reasonably.
I think al-manzila bayn al-manzilatayn kind of solves the issue. The major sinner who's persistent in the major sin, he's in Fisq. Fisq is a type of kufr, but it's not absolute kufr. Right?
That's an ishkaliya about, is it the issue of name and akhirah? I would say a better solution is the following. To say, if someone is sitting on Fisq, and dies on Fisq. If that Fisq reaches the level of Kufr, then he is treated like a kafir in Akhirah. Yeah? Kafir in Akhirah. And even kafir in Akhirah will Waeed does not mean this is the eternity. But leave that another point. And the hellfire may terminate after some time. Now, leave that. In dunya, the issue of classification of kafir and mu'min maybe does not apply in the first place, because all these classification refer back to the issue. If he is a kafir, we treat him a certain way. Then, the kafir, if he concludes that someone is a kafir, how to follow Islam, then his guardianship and his children will fall away. Then we cannot inherit from him, cannot inherit from us, all of these things. And that can be established by a court of law. That would be the better solution. Secondly, since there is no had ridda, and contradistinction to the mistake of many scholars, that's my belief at least. So that does not apply. So it does not produce a problem in dunya. If we're dealing with hukam, that's the problem now. If we're dealing with rulers, because they all relied, you can rebel only if, or you can fight him only if he commits kufr, or if he do public kufr or something like that. But that's not true. There are many other conditions which make him breaking of the covenant and worthy of removal.
Like injustice.
Injustice, but any fisq. Of any major sin which he is punished, then you can tell him, listen, you are athim, and clearly a fasiq does not deserve to be a leader or imam. He cannot be obeyed because he is supposed not to be subject to obedience according to the Quran. لا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا. Notice the Quran says, don't obey an athim or kafur, addressing the messenger. We know that address to the messenger is addressed to his ummah, unless we have an absolute evidence only for him. لا تطع آثما أو كفور. At the time there was no issue of آثم and kafur, only kafur. لا تطع منهم آثما أو كفور. So if we are prohibited to obey you, then how can you stay in power? Please go home and stay home. If he doesn't resist, then he will be forced. So the issue of kufr, of hakim and so on in person and so on is not relevant. It's the issue of the nizam, and he has to step aside. If he doesn't step, come to his reason, accept the ruling of the court and sit in his mother's house and leave the public office, then he has to be removed by force. So it's not necessary that he's kafir or not kafir or mistaken. If a ruling has come, which became final, like there may be appeal and things like that, or it's a final ruling of a Supreme Court, then he has to step aside. If he refuses, he's rebelling against the Constitution and breaking the bay'ah, and he can be forced, can be killed. And then this is the question: was he killed the kafir? Okay, if you believe he's a kafir, what the result will be? You don't pray on him. Let his family pray if they want. The whole issue, I think, has been messed up because people connected with issue related to punishment, issue to hadd al-ridda, issue of importance, inheritance, and so on. Yes, if, for example, such a ruler, which has been ruled to be a fasiq and should sit aside, and he resists and he gets killed and his soldiers killed with him, then I think it is improper for those who killed them and remove them to pray for them janazah. They should abstain because they fought them and killed them instead of resisting by force against the Islamic order. But their family can do, and then their money, because they were resisting the Islamic order and fought like Kafir Harbi, their money should be taken to the treasury. Family come to it, no, it didn't tell anything. It goes to the treasury. Anything else is irrelevant for the state, for the public life. The family want to pray for them, pray for them. If you're unconvinced about that, that's between you and Allah. If that's structured this way, the issue of Iman and Kufr and Fisq will become redundant. Actually, it becomes better to say most Fisq is a type of Kufr, especially if it entails rebellion, or it is one of the major sins which Allah has declared to be destructive, mubiqat, sab'a mubiqat, but there are various sab'a mubiqat. If we collect all of them, then it will come like 14, 15. But if we get the joint core, especially those who are supported with ayah, there are about 12 of them, more than shirk. And some of them, hadith says clearly, عدلت شهادة الزور الإشراك بالله. عدلت شهادة الزور الإشراك بالله. So the perjury, the شهادة الزور in a court of Islamic law is equivalent to shirk billah. So it's better to keep it like that. That may be ending in akhirah like a kafir. So the wa'id is there, and the motivation to avoid is stronger, and leave the akhirah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
In dunya, you can apply the necessary laws for that. For example, someone was found to have made shahadat al-zur, which resulted in some being executed. So he's executed as a punishment for him because his shahadat al-zur resulted in his death, his execution. Or result in his hand cut, so he'll get his hand cut as a retribution. Now, usually, if it is killed, that will be the only question, because then the people say, should we pray on him or should we should not pray over him, the one who does the job? But his family can say, no, we think he did not depart Islam. We are not convinced that he is of the people of that. Okay, you can pray. Question: what to happen with his wealth if we judge that he was killed as a kafir? But in the case of Shahadat al-Zur, the issue is a little bit dark, because between finding out that he made Shahadat al-Zur and condemning him by the court to be executed, he may have repented. So, and usually he publicly will repent and so on. And usually the judges ordered in any fasiq and had after the had or before the had, if the had is not has no after like execution, repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, just to save you an akhirah.
This is what
I don't think Shahid al-Zur will say, no, I'm not repenting. So the issue of inheritance is resolved. If he doesn't say, if someone say, no, I'm not going, I'm instead to my Shahid al-Zur, then obviously the judge will order his money to take into the treasury. Like a governor. These things can be settled. The issues related to kufr in dunya can be settled by judicial ruling.
You know,
the people did not need to settle it by extensive study of philosophical type. Because a good part of this study, I have the bad feeling that it's somehow the people want to talk to made obligation on Allah that he must punish this or must not do this. That's very bad. You should avoid that.
But what
we're not going to interfere. It's up to Allah to do
ayat, what if the ayat themselves say that the threat of God will be fulfilled? Then that means we are basing it based on divine revelation, not based on whims and desire. If Allah the Wa'ad and the Wa'id will be fulfilled, right?
Yeah, but the problem is Wa'ad must be fulfilled, but Wa'id can be forsaken.
But ontologically, they are the same thing in ontology.
No, it's not. It's not the same. It's not
they are both the word of God.
Yeah, no, but he is something related to a promise in the future, which is not. The problem is that people get confused because think it is phrased usually as khabar, but it's not khabar.
Is it not?
It's essentially saying, I will do that, I will not do that.
Yes, that's what I mean though. Wa'id,
so you cannot connect it to the issue of lying. That khabar cannot be. Unless wa'id is connected with something which genuinely khabar.
That's what I said. How is it not khabar? I don't understand this. Is it not khabar? Wa'id?
No, it's not khabar. It's khabar what Allah will do in the future. And He has a liberty, may do in the future. It's not happening yet.
So is the wa'ad khabar? What about the wa'ad?
The wa'ad is not khabar, but because of divine holiness, and it is unfit for the divine to promise to give you something and not give it to you. Because why should He not give it to you? Because He's stingy, because He's unable. But this does not apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it does not defeat the divine majesty if I promise you something, give you something, give you favor, give you forgiveness, not to fulfill that. But wa'id, it doesn't cause to Allah any deficiency.
But would it not violate His adl?
No, it doesn't violate adl.
Because
Adl against whom? Against Himself. He has the right.
because
He's absolutely sovereign about His own rights. Yeah, I have the right to punish you, but I forgo that.
He punished.
I'm capable for giving it and glossing over it.
So that means I'm gonna pose you a hypothetical question now, Ustad. That means what you're saying is this. Hypothetically, it's possible for Allah to overturn a wa'id, right? He doesn't have to fulfill it.
Oh yeah, and more often than not, He will overturn it. Hopefully.
So shirk is the greatest dhulm, right?
Yeah.
Shirk and iftira ala Allah, talking about Allah. So that means it's in one of the possibilities, Allah is forgiving a mushrik, kafir, fasiq, even though he's not deserving of the forgiveness. In one dimension of the because it's a contingent possibility. It's a possibility, we're saying.
Yeah.
If it's a possibility,
but people object. People will invoke in Allah لا يغفر يشرك به وما يغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. هذا وعيد. This is a wa'id.
Yes, exactly. He will forgive less than shirk, but He will not forgive shirk.
Yeah, but still He can. So you can't exclude it completely.
But how is that not khabar? That's what I'm not understanding.
It's not khabar. See, look at it. In the future.
So that
I يغفر now, but may forgive in the future يوم القيامة. After some time, okay, I have forgiven. You violated my rights. I'm above that.
Interesting. Because I wrote an article on some of these doctrines like al-wa'ad wal-wa'id, shafa'a, ru'ya, and from the ayat I've analyzed, it looks like to me that the major sinner who does not do tawbah will definitely be punished.
They are worthy of punishment. That's the meaning of major sin. They deserve punishment. That's all.
What about this ayah which Allah judges based on haqq? Allah judges, does qada based on haqq. You know, there's all these ayat that say
yes, haqq, yeah, haqq.
Yes. So if Allah judges based on truth, listen, if Allah judges based on truth, Allah judges or gives verdict based on haqq, and the fasiq, mushrik, kafir is deserving of Jahannam, that is the haqq, that is the right thing to do.
No, it's not haqq right to do. That's Allah's haqq to do that. It's not haqq to do or not to do. Allah has the right to do it. But Allah is capable of foregoing this right out of generosity. While in the case of wa'ad, it's not contingent because you have promised to give something, to give someone benefit. What prevents you from giving the benefit except you are stingy or you are incapable?
We have to clarify this though.
Yeah.
If Allah does forego or He lets go of the fasiq or the mushrik, is based on sabab, right? There's a reason, there's a hikmah for it. For example, maybe he done something good that makes Allah want to say, I will forgive this evil of his. Otherwise, his decision will be arbitrary. It will be random.
Yeah, not arbitrary. After all scores settled, which Allah promised to fulfill, that like the rights of the others are settled, and purely what remaining Allah's rights. Then it's very well possible to commute that.
You know, from what I understand,
what the consideration, what the reason, that's for Allah to decide Yawm al-Qiyamah in due course. Sometimes it has to be, for example, in the case of people of Fir'aun, النار العضوء على غدو عشان, that's happening now, خلاص done. ويوم تقول أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب أدخلوهم ويوم يتحاجون في النار. This is the khabar. They are going in that. That must be fulfilled at that level. After that, they may be all turned into dust.
People in the comment section are going to call me Khariji now, Ustad, after what I said. But no, I was assuming my understanding is that Al-Wa'ad and the Wa'id will both be fulfilled. However,
I know, I understand. The majority of people say that, but they don't. Ibn Hazm said there is no the difference between Al-Wa'ad and Wa'id. There is no difference, must be fulfilled. But he's mistaken. There's a fundamental difference.
oh, Ibn Hazm agrees with this.
He said Al-Wa'id must be also fulfilled.
Okay, I think it is mainly Ahl Sunnah, the Asha'ira, and the Maturidis who say that it does not have to be fulfilled. Allah can do what He wants.
I don't know if they say that. I don't bother about that. There's in every camp, some people say it like that.
Okay, interesting. So, okay, I'll ask you this question. You know, since we're talking about Aqidah and Kalam, look at all these schools of theology: the Ibadi, the Zaydi, the Mu'tazili, the Sunni. The
I know. Yeah, they may have.
One. Is there one amongst them, or let me word it in a better way, even if it's not from these groups, is there a set of principles, a set of creed, belief that a layman, the awam, can follow and say, you know what, this is the actual sunnah, this is the actual Islam, this is what we need to believe in? Yes, we all agree upon the normal arkan of iman, such as Tawheed, Ma'ad, Nubuwa, Akhir. We all agree upon this, yes. But things such as the Mu'tazila made usul khamsa, divine unity, al-adl, al-wa'ad wal-wa'id, al-amr ma'ruf wa nahy 'an al-munkar, kufr, you know, all these lists. There's something that is correct or authentic from any of these madahib or any of these groups. How would you answer?
I don't know. I don't know if they have phrased it like that as usul. I'm not sure about that.
For example, the Mu'tazila have the usul khamsa.
Because they worked on it systematically and they made it like that. And why they made it khamsa, I don't know. Maybe
for example,
they summarize it like that.
The Ibadiyya believe, I was reading their Aqidah a few days ago, they again believe that Allah is completely one, there's nothing like unto Him. He is also just. They believe in Al-Qadr wal-Qada, that Allah is the one who has all Qudra and every verdict, every decision is made by God's will.
But listen, the argument of Allah just is the wrong one here. It's as if He, for example, if you transgress the right of others, Allah give him a right and then he's the owner of the right. You kill him, for example. You take his money, then he must be compensated by you. And some have said if good deeds of you will take to give to him, Qiyamah, there is no other compensation, or some of your sins will be taken, uploaded to them. When that's all settled, the remaining sinner who are worthy of the hellfire, they have they have settled all their scores with everyone else. That's the adl obligatory of Allah, because He promised to fulfill the rights of the others. That's a wa'ad. That's done. Now is His wa'id. And He is at absolute liberty to fulfill it or forgo. Because if He does not fulfill it, what will be undermined of the divine attribute? Nothing. Nothing.
Can we not say,
look, what will be undermined?
Hikmah.
What's meaning of hikmah?
Meaning of hikmah is this.
I'm generous. I can't forgive it, all of them.
Let me give you an example.
Like, for example, after all these arguments and fire and have happened, the people who say said, now I forgive everyone, I'll turn them into dust.
Okay, He can do that. Of course He can. Yes, He can.
Yeah.
Yes. But what I meant is
the issue is they will be entered in the paradise at last. Maybe there is some issues related that the people of paradise promise that no kafir will be joining them there or something like that. Then it is a promise to be fulfilled. So they will be turned into dust and they will be terminated. They will be erased from a record of existence.
I'm going to ask you a question.
So that's what is also an old interpretation, I think, by Christian and Jews and so on, is that the hellfire is essentially eternal death.
But the question is
they call paradise eternal life.
This is what it goes down to.
But I'm not going to this in these fine details. But I say, if you look at it carefully, the problem is that you say it is hikmah. What is the meaning of hikmah here? That's one problem with the Mu'tazila. That they say Allah does something for a purpose of something else. Ultimately, if you don't clarify it depending upon His own will, the result is that He will be acting by necessity. This is the mistake of regarding that. He can do completely out of freedom, or for example, say the usual saying, "Laysa bil imkan ahsan mimma kan." That's not true. That's not true. It may be there's ahsan, but He showed this one for another consideration. And besides, if you say ليس بالإمكان أحسن مما كان, there's nothing better than what has already happened. No other universe would have been chosen besides this one, meaning it's compelled. It's done by necessity. No, there may be many universes where each one is superior to other in certain aspects, and they cannot be ordered. People, because human being thinks about hikmah in a linear line. 5 is greater than 4, 4 greater than 2. But what's about if you think in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions? In 3 dimensions, for 2 dimensions, the points on a circle around the center, around the origin of the coordinate system, are all of them equal distance to the center. They differ only in a phase, in an angle.
Yes.
And there's no reason to prefer an angle. Is the angle toward the east better, or to the north, or to the left, west, or to the south? There's nothing. All of them are equivalent. And Allah is capable of choosing one of them. So, because the people think in a linear way, think the universe can be ordered, the possible universe can be ordered in a linear way, and then a wise creator will choose the best one, the best possible one. Yeah, that's fine. But that if it were linear, but it may be not linear. The situation of the possible contingencies is extremely complex. It may be impossible to have so.
We said hikmah, right? I'll tell you what I mean. I'm going to define what I mean. Hikmah, when I say hikmah, I don't mean the human understanding of what I find wise. What I mean is this.
I understand. No, it's something else.
God,
he has a purpose. He wants to fulfill it.
Does he have a purpose?
Not throwing dice completely.
Because the alternative is going to be throwing dice randomly. As you said, the alternative to purpose is that the all-wise, the all-knowing, is going to do the dice randomly. But can this be attributed? Can randomness or arbitrary things can it be attributed to the Almighty?
It's as we see in the universe, there's set randomness, which most likely the base that there will be a free will.
Maybe there's a hidden hikmah. Maybe there's a hidden wisdom.
What is hidden? It doesn't make anything. What is hidden?
As you said, our perception is limited, so we might not be seeing the reason.
For example, the case of creation, people who have rationality and so on, the Sufi struggle to understand. ليعبدون, he doesn't need worship. So what made ليعبدون? That they know me. Because why did he create? Because he, as they fabricated the hadith, but the meaning is quite good, is that I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be known.
Yes.
I enjoy the absolute my own self-perfection, and it will be stingy and not befitting the divine being to have this joy alone. So created being who are independently can enjoy his and he wanted then that they will do that by their own free will. He wanted them to be a finite projection of the divine, made on his image, according to the description of the people of the book, or that hadith which people are discussing. Is it true? That's the choice. That's a fundamental choice. That's a fundamental choice.
I'm going to pose.
But it's a choice. There's other possibilities. He chose this one. This is more befitting to his nature. But you couldn't have chosen otherwise. That's the point. Otherwise, he is then a dead, blind nature, and such a thing cannot create anything.
There's a difference. I'll tell you why there's a difference. When the Mu'tazila have said God has to be just, right? He has to be just. The enemy, the opponents, the mukhalifin of the Mu'tazila, they said, look at the Mu'tazila. They are given an obligation upon God. In actuality, it's not an obligation, because Allah, by His Qadr, does not need to do that. But because of He knows objectively what's right, what's wrong, what's best,
But that's a problem. No, right? There's no right or wrong except His own being. He is the only absolute right and haqq. There's nothing outside Him. So that's what's right and wrong. This means there's certain moral principles beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But
that's the problem. Then there's a illah, and he has no other choice except to do that. He will then be acting by necessity. There's no way.
I don't understand the issue of illah. Ibn Hazm talks about this as well. I don't understand it. Because I'll tell you why I don't understand it. When we say God does based on wisdom or what's right, what we mean is He's not obliged to do it physically. No, not physically. By Qadra, He's not obliged to do it. But by will, He will definitely do that because it's the best.
What means by will?
I'll tell you why.
He must choose it? No.
No.
He can choose it. خلاص, that's it. That's all what we need.
For example,
he has certain purposes expressing his being. That's it.
He had the ikhtiyar, he had the choice to create and not to create.
Yeah.
Creating is better than not creating, objectively. So he created. This is an example, just as an example. Because creating is better than not creating. So Allah chose what's better. Creating is better than not creating.
But why creating this specific universe?
Maybe He creates infinite. That's why. Maybe Allah creates.
But even that doesn't help the problem. This one has been created with all the problems and suffering and so on, which the atheists say that's an evidence that there's no God.
Actually, I think the problem of evil answered by some of the philosophers are very, very.
If you say he has to choose certain thing, which is the optimal or as-salah wal aslah and so on, like Mu'tazila say, although they may have been, people have formulated their behalf, not the correct formulation, ultimately it will happen that it will become he is not free agent. He has to choose certain things. There's something overriding beside his own free will and his own nature.
What about this ayah in the Quran? This is Wahi is the Mizan, Quran is the Furqan. Allah says, Allah judges and decides based on truth. How would you answer this one, Ustad?
Yeah, the truth is his own being, his own attributes, not anything outside him.
What does that mean, though? If Allah says Allah judges based on truth, what would that mean?
Based on nature, there's no other truth beside him. In eternity, there's nothing beside him. He's the first and the last. He's the all comprehensive truth. He is al-haq. This is his nature. All what the ayah indicates is that is not arbitrary like a blinding throwing away. There are certain purposes, but the purposes are chosen by him. If you want to say it more in a common manner, according to his taste, not to our taste or a taste of a moral philosopher. No, there's nothing like that. There's simply nothing like that.
Interesting. I couldn't find the ayah. I'm looking for it.
Yeah, maybe we leave this issue with it. But yes. If something like this, there's a illah or something, and a reason motivating a divine action, ultimate reason, maybe this action is motivated by this reason, but ultimately the chain will end in a fundamental choice which is not dictated by any separate reason from his except his own being. And that means his own free will. Or he acting by necessity will be that a deaf blind nature. But this one cannot act. It will go in infinite regress. It's impossible. That's what exclude that necessarily existing. You conclude from the chain of events and causes and effects by necessity that there was a starting point for the time and for the reality. Yeah, that must be concluded. There are events without any beginning is impossible and can be refuted mathematically and so on. So both Ibn Taymiyyah is wrong, the Hindus are wrong who say the universe is cyclic for eternities back and forth, does not make any sense. And also Penrose is wrong in that. Definitely, it's not that. That contradicts the principle of necessity of reason. So that's number one. Secondly, if we have then the starting point is some kind of a necessary existing being which can create things, that must be an act of pure free will. He could have chosen otherwise. That's it. He should. That what we have now is the choice done, but he could have chosen now. He's a free agent, and free agent meaning he's a conscious being. He has knowledge, at least the present knowledge in eternity. Knowledge of various possible universes, all possible mathematics, all of these things. Otherwise, it's a dead entity which acting by necessity. There's no other alternative. That's the only way necessity existing can be understood. If he acting in freedom, his freedom must be absolute. The opposite will be no freedom whatsoever. He has knowledge, the al-ilm al-huduri, the present knowledge in eternity, encompasses all knowable things in eternity. Possible universes, mathematical rules, his own nature. Yeah? Or he doesn't know anything. He's dead, unconscious. There's no escape. That's the only possibility. There's no other two possibilities. That possibility of which is the atheists argue for, that there is some kind of a nature, a necessity running out by necessity what's going on. So we have to, what's happening is by necessity. We cannot complain because the thing who created the whole universe have no mind or no mind behind it. It's just mindless machine. But this cannot create anything. That's a problem. That may be a possible solution. It may solve the problem of so-called suffering for many atheists, that's all, who became atheists because it's called the problem of suffering. That could be a solution, but then there will be nothing. No suffering or nothing. We wouldn't be here in the first place. It has to be started with an absolute sovereign act of absolute freedom, which could have been otherwise. And there are other possible invested, and that has been chosen according to his own taste. That's it. There's no other alternative. That's the meaning of necessity existing.
His own taste doesn't sound right to me. What does it mean, own taste?
His own nature, his own attribute.
Own taste sounds like to me, for example, I like kebab. This is a personal preference.
The other thing meaning something is dictating to him. But he say according to al-haq. What is al-haq? Is al-haq himself or something outside? If himself, we're back to freedom. Or a dead, blind, deaf nature.
Haq is this. He creates everything, so he knows everything, and he knows intrinsically.
Why he created in the first place, the starting point. That's the issue. Later on, things are based on each other. Yes, it happens.
For example, I'm going to ask you a question. Is creating intrinsically, objectively good or bad? Would you have an answer to this? Creating. Is it good or is it bad? Well, what do you think?
Because Allah did it, it's good. That's it. That's what makes it good. There's nothing good and bad outside Allah.
I see the opposite. It's the extension of the divine attribute of mercy and lutf. Otherwise, we would not see mercy. So creating...
That's very emotionally appealing, but it doesn't work in a strict rationality called blooded rationality. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Because I would say Allah is able
I know it's emotionally appealing, but it doesn't work.
Forget emotions, objectively. Allah is able to manifest the godly attribute of being the creator by creating. This is
okay.
This is not emotional.
But he could choose otherwise. I don't want to manifest it.
I agree. He can. Yeah. He has the ikhtiyar. He has the qudra.
Yeah.
But what's ahsan? What's better?
And knowledge, because if we don't attribute to him consciousness, idrak, ilm, and free will, then he is a dead, blind, deaf nature. There's no other alternative. There's nothing in between for a necessarily existing being. For finite being, there is dead things. There are things with with limited consciousness, like lizards, and then something with more consciousness, like birds, or like birds are having more. Actually, some birds, like that's the reason I put in Enterprise this. Nobody commented on it about the intelligence of raven. I put it for one purpose. I will mention it now.
I didn't watch about story. So
they have, and cats and dogs have better rationality and so on. So there is grades because they are contingent for necessarily existing either nothing or full. There's no other way. There's no other way. It's impossible. It will create contradiction.
So for example,
unless we claim that not necessarily existing being is internal contradictory, like some atheists claim, there's nothing. Everything is contingent. I just imagining something, but this will lead to another fundamental contradiction also.
I've got a question. For example, what we did is an example of Kalam, right? This is ilm al-Kalam, what you and I are engaging with.
But Kalam did not go into that depth. It went to something and ended in some problems.
Yeah,
Mu'tazila concerning especially Salah and al-Aslah.
That's what I was going to say. Allah says in the Quran that those who attribute it to Allah based on dhann, without having sultan or without having ilm.
That's the reason we should not attribute to dhann. Like Salah and Aslah is based on dhann.
Exactly. This is what I was going to ask you.
The necessity that we have is necessity. What we have in the text and also in the set of reason is that necessity existing is a really necessity of rationality. There must be a necessity existing being. It can be only one, and there must be one. because of the chain of events. And unless we say all that is just imaginary and we are just imagining, but even that, in the imagination, things are progressing. So there's some kind of a time, even in the imagination, some parameter there. So there's no escape from that. He claiming this is only the passage of time is illusion and everything is here, the past and the front, but we are on the line, like some people who go with a relativistic theory to extreme, because they made the original mistake, treating time like space. And that's the fundamental error there. But we are not discussing physics now and how to correct physics. But let's go to the one. That a necessary existing being is dictated by reason. Otherwise, reason will disappear, and then we can be in a mental institution. We can't distinguish between rationality and irrationality, between the passage of time, non-passage of time. It's like in a mental state. The only one who can describe that feeling is if someone is in a mental institution, and even these guys do not reach that level. But if we leave that and expect that there's some rationality, that is a necessary existing being, must be one, which initiated that what we see, or which is definitely contingent by necessity of perception and scanning the reality. So that starting point is either a free agent with knowledge and so on, and then he has perfect knowledge, he has absolute freedom. His first act, at least, أول ما خلق الله القلم قال اكتب مقادير كذا, that one, the first decision, is in some sense not dictated by anything. Free, absolutely free. Or it's a dead, blind, deaf nature. Nothing. But that one is impossible because it cannot create anything. And then all the other things, that all the future action, all other things like that are based on previous one, that's fine. The order, the certain sequence, that's all possible. That's all makes sense. And some of them can change, some of it cannot be changed. Like, for example, the Prophet supplicated that his Ummah will not be having infight. He said, Ya Muhammad, what you are asking for is another universe. What is gone? Khalas. From the foundation of the world, the universe is so chosen with people with free will and shows of good and even on full responsibility, and there is no way to prevent infighting inside the nation, because it contradicts the nature of human nature. It contradicts the first decision of the universe. We're not going to back to point zero and change the universe. It's not possible. But I give you shafa'a yawm al-qiyamah for that instead, because that cannot be fulfilled. It's impossible. إني إذا قضيت قضاء فإنه لا يرد is already decided. It means negating the whole reality which has been done for now 13.8 billion years, whatever number of years it was. It's no way.
So, Ustad,
since every prophet had three supplications which be fulfilled, two were fulfilled him for dunya or for his ummah, nothing for him, not like Sulaiman, kingdom and so on. No, absolutely for his ummah. And the third was for the ummah. And Allah said, it's not possible. I said, then give me shafa'a yawm al-qiyamah. That's for you. Shafa'a yawm al-qiyamah.
So, Ustad, to conclude all of this, what nasiha or advice would you give to general Muslims what to follow? What would you say to them? To conclude all of this, what we had. What is that general last message of advice you would give to all Muslims seeking the truth?
What we'll see is each one of these schools have some blunder here and there. Go back to Quran and make it the Imam, and then the Sunnah. And in the matter of Aqidah, just rely on Sunnah Mutawatir. Don't waste your time with single Ahadith, because their scrutiny and their, especially in issues of Aqidah, especially in issue of Qada and Qadr, the Ahadith are so wavering and confusing. It's unbelievable. Just ignore them. And the Quran
should be enough for this. The Quran should be enough for this.
Is more than enough. Look, for example, and we consider Qadr and destiny and free will. Don't say مقدر والمكتوب, or like the poet said, مشيناها خطا كتبت علينا وكتبت علينا. We walk steps which have been dictated upon us, and whoever had been dictated step, he will walk them. That's not true. What is true is that Allah said in the Quran, وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج لهم القيامة كتابا يلقاهم منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. For every human, we have bound his destiny or his luck or his unluck. That's ta'ir. In Arabic, his bird. Because the Arab used the bird. I explained that in the tafsir. They used to throw stone against birds, and if they fly right, it's a good omen. If they left, that's bad omen. I think, or back and forth, that's all nonsense. But it's an expression ta'irahu. We have his bird around his neck, meaning his destiny is bound on his neck, under his power. And we will produce for him a book Yawm al-Qiyamah to share open with him. Nothing secret, complete transparency. Read your book and judge yourself by yourself. You are sufficient judge on yourself. You cannot say, I have been dictated these steps. No, you have not been dictated these steps. You have complete freedom within the frame. For example, if someone has not received no prophet, so I have no prophet, I couldn't more than that. He will not be even questioned. We know that. That's the adl which expresses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he doesn't punish some messenger of sin.
Very good advice. I agree.
That's the most important.
Conclude here then.
Concerning the divine attribute, just take them as come in your mind. Like, for example, I remember we had a nice man, rahmatullah, he died a bit earlier in age, from Khatham, which now have a mostly, although they call some of them call themselves Khathami, but they are usually Shamrani. Khatham is Shahran, I think they are from Khatham. Khatham Bajila, Anmar, Khatham Bajila. He was a very simple, good man. And he was working as a gardener in our house in the 60s, rahmatullah. He died late 60s or 70s. He used to visit my mother when I was in Germany and so on. Very nice man. Rahmatullah. I will even share his name. It's a good name, Muhammad bin Sahman. And then I visited this area by accident for a legal case, and I told his people what happened to him. They tell me, no, he suddenly became ill and died peacefully and so on. When he was working for us, once we were discussing an ayah, and say, if you hear this ayah, you know, it came from the heart of a God. No, God have no heart. But we know the expression. We did not even rebuke. I didn't rebuke it. Because that's a common man thinks, coming from the heart, from deep inside. That's the meaning of it. He never thought that Allah has a bump. Definitely not. So take it like that.
Yes.
But considering, for example, that we made a big issue, the Salafi sit on at the doors of the masjid, they test the people. First of all, testing at the masjid like that is haram. But leave that. Say, does Allah have a hand? So, no. Ask them. Okay. You say, because he said, خلقت آدم بيدي. He has a hand. What's the hand? I don't know. We don't know. And then they start wavering. Fine. Then what is this hand then? Because in another ayah he said, so either the Quran is contradicted not from Allah, or it has the hand has another meaning than a jariha, or even what you have in your sick mentality. He says, إن مثل آدم عند الله كمثل عيسى. أن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم. إيش؟ خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. Where is the hand there? Is the hand here the special mode of كن فيكون? Must be. But about the animal said, ألم يروا إن خلقنا لهم مما عملت جعلنا لهم أو أنعام مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون. أيدينا now in plural أنعاما. So I figured maybe Yadd hand mean here with a special attention in a special procedure. Similarly for the animals, but the animal is in a plural, for us in a singular. Make it more closer. Maybe it's hinting that the process was an evolution. The kun fayakun was not executed in a second, it's executed for a long time in a complicated procedure called, scientists call it evolution. And when it peaked in humans, it was then one hand. Big ni'mah, big speciality. For animal, many hands, aydina, something like that. And possibly with other intermediaries, angels and other forces playing a role. But for Adam, maybe the final step, blowing the spirit, is that what hinted, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, made him rational and gave him the capability of language. That may be like a sudden step at a certain person. Maybe miraculous step, we don't know. But that's too sophisticated for common people. خلق آدم بيده. He imagines he was kneading the mud like a dough. Okay, let him imagine. What's the problem with that, for God's sake? Why discuss it in the first place?
Well said.
The Sahaba never asked about it, didn't bother about it, because it was clear in their mind. Some of them almost certainly thought it was kneading by his own hand. Maybe thought that. Other knew it is metaphorical, which is both are fine. Both are fine. Only when people get stuck there and that become an issue of hostility. These Mu'tazili are deviant. And the Mu'tazili, these Ahl Hadith are shallow, deviant, and mutilating the religion. These are started accusation and counter accusation. And especially in many of these aspects, politics played a role, because issue of fatalism and so on played a role in justifying rulers and telling the people, this is Qadr, you have just to submit it, just take refuge to dua, which is a contradiction, because if it is Qadr cannot be changed, then dua will not be able to change anything, or what otherwise.
Exactly.
أو الحديث الدعاء ينفع مما نزل وما لم ينزل. الدعاء والقضاء يتصارعان بين السماء والأرض. Dua want to go up in heaven, and Qadha want to push him down until يوم القيامة. It's a metaphorical picture. Meaning you can't. لا يرد القضاء إلا الدعاء. صلة الرحم تطيل في العمر. Refuse that people say that the lifestyle is fixed at the foundation, or we are unbelieve your mother. No, it's not true. You can't extend it. You can extend it by صلة الرحم. You can extend it by good health care. You can extend it by many things. And you can shorten it by drinking khamr, by taking drugs and poisoning yourself, eating bad and so on. You shorten it, yeah. Breaking the relation of the kin, having bad relation to other human being, being continuously in stress, you shorten your life, yeah.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Everything comes in one place. Then the meaning of ibadah, meaning of supplication mixes. And most important is really clarify the issue of qadar, because the Prophet in hadith, famous hadith of Jibreel, sorted the Quran never mentioned qadar as a bonus. He mentioned وما يكفر بالله وملائكته كتب ورسله واليوم الآخر فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا. So he mentioned all the cornerstones of Iman. ما يكفر بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا. ما قالوا بالقدر. Anyway, في حديث جبريل he added the qadar. Why? Because the issue of qadar is one of the sore issues for at least 1,000 years before Muhammad since Zarathustra and the Majus came more publicly through the first Persian Empire. And what does it mean? The issue of evil, good and evil. Who creates evil? Is there another deity? Is there a shaitan? All these things. When the Prophet والقدر خيري وشرعي من الله تعالى, meaning whatever in the universe, in the proportion system universe, which you regard as good or evil, independent if it's good and evil, really genuinely itself, but by your own perception as a human being, it has only one creator. There is no shaitan creating anything. Shaitan himself is a creator. Exactly. Evil itself is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for wisdom and synchronization in a certain way. He shows most of it coming from free will, and most of it coming from the contingency and the nature of the universe. So, but it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no two deity. قال الله لا تتخذوا إلهين اثنين إنما Allah said, do not adopt two deities, good and evil one. It's one. That's it.
Everything else wants.
Be fearful of me. If you're afraid of something you think evil, then you have to be fearful of me. What's the wisdom? That is very deep and complex, yes, but there's no two deities. There's no good and evil gods. Does not exist an evil God. There's only one God, one creator. That's al-qadr, but has sorted separately in the hadith, because it's a sore issue which troubled the people for thousands of years. Genuinely for thousands of years. And it's the one who led the deviation of Paul regarding the death on the cross is just to remove the initial sin. All of these things is because of this fundamental problem of good and evil, and how to deal with suffering in the universe and so on. So that's all what the common Muslim needs. That scholars may study and like we discuss now things, fine points and so on, for scholarly purpose, and if it's needed, it's okay. Human beings that by their own nature argue, they never end, they never stop.
Yeah.
That's their nature. Allah created this way. They even argue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا.
Exactly.
The most argumentative being in the universe is human beings. They argue and argue, and even they argue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly.
So they have to take it. If the people recognize that, then they will focus on what's the, and the purpose of life is clear in the Quran. That's very clear, that they worship Allah, meaning attribute to Him all sovereignty and all obedience only to Him. And they say, okay, and this is the way for survival in dunya, good life and good life in the hereafter. So what He has made injunction, what's the most fundamental important injunction? At least they comply with them. Salah, zakah, but also commanding good and forbidding jihad and so on, and it is due and so on. Then the people focus on what I am supposed to do to achieve success and happiness, not rather what does the hand, is it a part or not part. If this is a worthy discussion, scholars will discuss it, and it doesn't bring you forward. So let's assume someone say the hand is meaning I created Adam by my special intention and ni'mah, but actually kun fayakun. Does that make you feel better about Adam creation than say with hand, which is like something like a jarih or something that was kneading the mud with his hand, like someone kneading a dough to put it in an oven? No, I don't think any one of these 2 points of view will make you feel closer to Allah or removed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most important, Allah who did it with His own hands. What are these hands? Don't know what's it. If it were a human being, we know how will we be using his hands, but he's not a human being. Allah is not a human being. Allah is not similar to anything in the creation. We know ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. That's it. Simple. But they made it complicated because it's accusation and counter-accusation. Attack and counter-attack is وما اختلف الذين أوتوه إلا بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم. Most of these disputes is because of baghi, transgression, not because there is a compelling reason in themselves.
Yeah.
Someone started something to justify his crime, like Muawiyah, so got his cohort to fabricate a hadith and so on, so that he can get himself out of that. And then someone else came with a counter hadith, and someone came with a counter theory. And then when someone denies that is Jabr, they say, oh, you're denying Allah's knowledge and so on, you are a kafir. I'm going to slaughter you Yawm al-Eid as a sacrifice. Like Khalid ibn Abdullah al-Qasri, say, killed a man of the opposition under the pretext, no, not because he's opposition, because he claimed Allah is not on the throne and did not talk to Musa. So he's slaughtering for that, mashallah. You care about that. No, is that your business if he talks the Kalam Musa taklima ila akhirih? But they're playing with that with the people, and especially when governments and the clergy and churches interfere in that, it becomes a death trap. It becomes an inquisition. It becomes burning on the stake or crucifying someone or killing someone, like having an Islamic word, much less than Christianity, luckily, but both. Scholars here, and especially rulers who claim that they are the head of the Ummah and they must care for dunya and deen. No, don't worry for deen. Allah cares for his deen. You care for dunya. Collect the zakat properly, collect the taxes properly, and distribute it properly. Instead, they were swallowing it away and then busy correcting the deen.
See, this is the advice
how it happens. I know how it happens.
We know. This is the advice that the people need to hear. These are the main points that are the fundamentals. Very good conclusion, Ustad. Will your part 4 of this as well? People are liking it, I think. We are enjoying it.
Maybe next time we discuss the claims, say we're doing ta'wil and taklif, and see this formula itself is false. It's a fallacy.
Okay.
It contains problem.
Next time we'll talk about this. We'll conclude here then. Thank you very much.
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay, just a quick
anyway,
one
this is really an area I would have loved, but because it's already obviously on the table and people are fighting for it for over 1,000 years, we know that even more. We have to address it. Unfortunately, that's what life is all about. Sometimes the issue is raised. But I remind everyone about the hadith, and I didn't study its authenticity, but it sounds good. Say, if someone discusses and disputes about Qadr in dunya, he will be asked on Qiyamah to explain his point of view, which is very reasonable. But if he doesn't dispute and just believe in his heart that Qadr khair wa min Allah Ta'ala and about what the Quran says about these things, then he will not be asked Yawm al-Qiyamah. So if you get involved in this, then you are liable of being asked Yawm al-Qiyamah. Why did you conclude this? And what's your authority? If you avoid it, then you are in safe ground. There's nothing to avoid it. I don't believe in the things which are with certitude established. Like that the future does not exist, is open, except few things which have already been decided either in the past or decided tomorrow or today. But other things are still open. And all contingent onto Allah Ta'ala. And He's the complete sovereign and have absolute control over the future. So He is not that He knows the future, He has absolute control and creative power over the future. That's it. That's very important. And hence, you are responsible for your action. Don't come and say, I was forced. I did not have any free will. No, you have had. And here's your deeds. And here, now your eyes have become كشفنا عنك غطاءك. We opened the cover over your eyes, but your eyesight is now very sharp. You see what you were not seeing in the dunya. And the hadith said, the people, human beings, are sleeping. When they die, they wake up. فإذا ماتوا انتبهوا. Then state of is like you are alive in a dream now. But when you die, khalas, flesh is gone, the spirit is free, and the eyes are full white. And the Yawm al-Qiyamah is even much sharper. And the you cannot deny that. If the people, every Muslim knows that, then he goes, I don't want to be troubled in Yawm al-Qiyamah. What I'm supposed to do? Account ruler, hold salah, bring the zakah, insist that the state or the authority, if there's any legitimate authority, they should collect the zakat and distribute it justly. If not, then I will do it. And so on. They should organize it. They should be amrin alayha. That's the practical life. And I should be attending to my children, doing my duty, bringing them up, knowing my limitation, doing my duty towards my wife, etc. And to my parents. Then life would be happier. Muslim life would be better structured.
Exactly. Well said. Good advice for the Dawah people, for them to pay heed to.
But you find, for example, now Madkhali and so on, sitting in every corner, blabbering about such obscure issues which have no relation to reality, or like this, the one who is bleak-faced, I don't know what's his name, who is that, responding to Abu Ubaidah, the leader of Hamas in the early phase of the major jihadi action, the Tufan Aqsa, the flood of Aqsa. He said, Abu Ubaidah, jahid bis sunan, attend to sunnah, forget about fighting. That's not proper now. Now jahid with the sunnah. Make sure you have trim your beard correctly and use bractions. And that's where these Madkhali and Jamia ended. But the same apply, but there's not only for Wahhabi. The same apply for Ash'ari. Most of the Mashayikh in Sham and so on, obey don't rebel, bloodshed. This is Qadr, just defend it with dua. And you go to the Shia situation, even worse. This is the representative, the Imam. He cannot do wrong. We must obey what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He just submit to it, almost making him divine. Sanamiyya, almost an idolization. This is the state of affairs which is no good. It will end undermining Islam and destroying it. But the people say, what kind of way of life is this? It's a joke. Just see what the other in the West have achieved, and they shake it up with the church. Let us shake this church, because it's Islamic teaching us one become almost church-like. Fiqh became almost like Talmudic light, hair splitting about some technicalities. Some of them are just manifestly absorbed. That's the only my objection to excessive ilm al-kalam. But as a science, it has been established and need to be attended and cleaned. But also, one final before we, because I kept you for a long time, one final point is that ilm al-kalam is addressing issue which related to physics and mathematics, but the level of mathematical sophistication, like tatbiq, like when they study an infinite series and say this series is having 4 members more, so they cannot be mapped on each other. It's not true. They can't be mapped. You may have studied enough mathematics to know that I can map all the natural number 1, 2, 3, 4 all of them up to infinity, not a finite, any finite section, onto the even number only by multiplying with 2. 1 go to 2, 2 go to 4, 3 go to 6, and so on. And I can reverse, so I can make tatbiq. Although one of them seems to be half of the other, but it happens only in a finite section. The moment you go to infinity, يتم التطبيق. You have to define تطبيق properly. That's one of the main issues. For example, I'm objecting to, you find in the علم الكلام books like Al-Amidi and so on. Also, there are sites, and Dr. Saeed Ayub, a famous doctor in Egypt now, regarding almost like the leading modern متكلم and Ash'ari school and so on. And I saw some discussion about تطبيق and so on, and they made that mistake because they did not completely study and completed what mathematics have achieved. Yeah, the entire past was very difficult. These things, the moment you go to infinity, you have problems and massive things which need to be reformulated in a strict way, in an exactly restricting way, without assumption based just on feeling. Like, for example, the famous so-called the paradox of the arrow by Zeno. What the paradox say is that if you shoot an arrow 100 meters with a certain speed, it takes maybe 1 second. Okay, good. But Zeno figured, okay, to get to that, then you have to go to half of the distance in a half time, and then the other half of the half in a quarter, and so on. And then it will be infinite small amount, which is getting smaller. Now he assumed, because there are infinite many numbers, the sum must be infinite. So the arrow should never reach, but in reality it reaches. So what's the concept? Because it's very simple, because the definition of summing infinite numbers is not done properly. If you do it properly and go to the limit properly, you will find the sum of half, quarter, eighth, 1 over 16. If you sum them correctly with the geometric series, it will end being exactly 1. But you have to define that. At time of Zeno, that was paradoxical. People did not know how to deal with it. But we learned over 1,000 years how to deal with it. The same with tatbiqat. It has to be done more meticulously. Then you will see you can. Finite, yes, if they are not the same number. But what's the meaning of the same number of infinite set? It's only by tatbiq. And then if you don't do it meticulously, in an exacting way, you will make massive errors. At first say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2, 4, 6. We took all the even now the odd numbers here. So we must have half here. It's not half, it's the same number, because we can make tatbiq correctly both ways, as we've proven by mathematics now and shown to be contradiction free and so on. That's well established now. That's part of the well established knowledge of human beings with certitude. But that's developed later. In Azhar also, they're stuck with the old tatbiq. Doesn't work this way. We have to advance on that. That's not good. That's not
Ustad,
good.
with your permission, I would like to say something to Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, before we conclude this discussion. This has been about ilm al-kalam and aqidah. Jake is someone, okay, this is a message to him directly. I hope you're listening to this, Jake. We like to be soft with you because we have to be, it's our duty. We are brethren in faith. But your harshness against the mu'mineen in times of dire need, in times of difficulty, where there's bloodshed, you're so concerned with talking about the hand of God, the arm of God, the leg of God. Is this what your deen is? Look, you are someone, at one point you were inclining towards the Atharis, the Asha'ira, the Maturidiyya, due to your ignorance. Ignorance is normal, ignorance is natural, ignorance is fallible. We are human beings, we are fallible, right? You can change your opinion. Look at the detail our Ustad, Dr. Muhammad al-Mas'ari, is speaking about regarding ilm al-kalam, tafsir al-Quran, aqidah, and all of these historical events. And you're so adamant, confidently, arrogantly talking down upon other Muslims instead of uniting upon good, enjoying all that is right, forbidding all that is wrong, removing the Church of Najd from Saudi instead of being subservient to UAE and all these wrong governments and these government scholars. Your priorities, my friend, is upside down. Upside down. Look at what Daniel is doing. Look at what you're doing. And that's why you're not willing to debate him. So if you're not willing to debate, save yourself face, save yourself honor, and unite the Ummah. Huh? Please. Sorry, I got a bit irritated with Jake because he's been very dogmatic with this type of stuff.
Jack,
But
because Jack came from background which is also like hair splitting about the nature of Christ and so on. And then he, alhamdulillah, Allah guided him to Islam and recognized this is the truth. But this baggage is still there. He will overcome it, inshallah. I'm confident he will overcome it. Because he coming from another world and happened to embrace Islam by the mediation of people of Wahhabi or Salafi background. And that's the only truth he knows about Islam. So you'll become Salafi. Like I know, for example, one Caribbean young man in the celebration of 20 years of the Iran Revolution in 1999, I was invited. I was supposed to give the speech there, but I declined because of political sensitivity. And they told, let someone else say to Sheikh Araki. He was the head of the Islamic Center here. And then this Caribbean guy came. I told Sheikh Araki for two reasons. First, it was really politically problematic for me because being from Arabia and this Iran, so it's not good. Secondly, I have a very negative view about Iran after Khomeini, extremely negative. And it's not proper in the celebration that I will express the negative view while being an invited guest. That's not nice. Let someone else comment. So he invited this Caribbean young Muslim, and his comment was even harsher. That because he embraced Islam, motivated by the Khomeini revolution and the hope that the commanding good and forbidding evil done by Hussein will come alive. The Islam will become alive again, and tyranny and the Yazid style and Muawiyah style. And then he concluded and say that was our hope. That this Caribbean young man, I don't remember his name. I said our hopes that we hope that Hussein came out of his grave, but unfortunately I recognize now that Hussein is back to the grave and Yazid is out. And they looked at Araki, who was like, come on. So he obviously using linguistic and so on of the Shia, but luckily because of the issue of commanding the rebelling against Rasulullah was on the table, was major issue theoretically by the Shia over the centuries, because it turns into a lamentation. Only Khomeini turned into an activity, although the construct, which is very obscure and very most likely anti-Islamic, the theory of Walayat al-Faqih, but at least they become a little bit activated. Instead of just slapping the face for 1,000 years, they're doing something now, a little bit. So I think one day also Jack will recognize, I entered Islam with this, but really Islam is deeper and more consistent, more rational than what these Salafi says. And my advice is go back to the Book of Allah and compare various translations. And if there's any discussion of any point like that, then we can have with him a private meeting, not necessarily public, just private meeting and discuss these things. Because anyone coming from outside basic Islam in these difficult times is definitely having made a major step, especially someone from the West, who the whole tradition and whole characteristic and personality is based on Pauline Christianity, plus Judo-Christian, a bit of Judo-Christian, but actually deeper, more deeper on Roman Greek paganism. So he's jumping from one world to another completely. So I think it's possible to improve and change and develop.
Okay, we'll end it here then, inshallah.